Hi, I'm Marisa Prince. I'm running for a partial term on the Brandon board for trustee. It's a 2-year term. A little bit about myself. So I grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta, north of Atlanta, in East Cobb, Marietta. I attended college at the Georgia Institute of Technology, Georgia Tech in Atlanta. I had a full scholarship. When I graduated, I hired into a college graduate training program for managers at Ford and later on Visteon, their parts supplier. So I traveled around and rotated through different factories throughout Southeast Michigan. Eventually, they paid for me to get my master's in business administration from Wayne State. I then hired into a Tier 1 automotive supplier working as their quality manager in the city of Detroit. And I got married. I met my husband in the MBA program at Wayne State. We had my daughter and I decided to stay home with her. And now I have 3 little girls. The youngest will be starting junior kindergarten in the fall, so I'll be able to go back to work. I'm excited. So yeah, I enjoy, we have chickens, we live on some acreage, and I just enjoy being home, doing things with my family, gardening, sewing, things like that.
Cool. Obviously, you're running for office. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about why you're running.
Well, I'm running for office because I started attending the township meetings, especially when the discussions were going on about having the trail system come through Brandon Township. And I just felt like families like mine, young families, weren't represented on the board. So I'm running to represent families here in Brandon Township, and also just to provide a new perspective. You know, I'm a political outsider, newcomer. I have a lot of good ideas. I have the educational background to be able to make good decisions. And I just want to serve my neighbors and friends here in Brandon Township and make this, continue to make it a wonderful place to live and a place where my kids might want to live someday themselves when they grow up, you know.
With your background, extensive background in business, obviously your ability to work and deal with processing and things of that nature is important, because obviously local politics is the hardest because you live next to your neighbors, and from that perspective, so you obviously have a lot of background, professional background that I think that makes for a very good candidate. What could you draw upon that? Just the experience that you've had in business?
Well, yeah, so when I was a quality manager, I had a departmental budget of over $1 million. So when I look at what Brandon Township is spending, about $2 million a year, you know, I'm really comfortable with making those types of decisions involving, you know, a lot of money. I'm comfortable making cuts. You know, I had a plant manager whose expectation of his department managers, like myself, was that we came up with enough savings every year to justify our salary. So I was looking at figuring out ways every year to save the company about $100,000. Okay, and that's without changing the product and without really changing the process, because both of those things require a lot of customer approvals, which is really hard to get.
Right.
So I did take that approach sometimes. I did take that difficult path of getting customer approval. A lot of that is based on relationships, you know. One of my strengths, working with all different kinds of people, you know, from the shop floor up to the CEO, dealing with my customers, dealing with my suppliers. All of that is relevant if you're going to be working as a trustee. Sure. So finding ways to save money, I'd have to share that cost savings with my customer, of course. But I think there's opportunities to do that here as well. Okay.
Is there something specific that you have honed in on as a candidate if you become a trustee that you might want to sort of focus your attention on? Maybe that one issue that's important to you?
Yeah, one issue that's really important to me out here is that while we have a dated master plan, so we do have a master plan for the township, and as trustee it would be my responsibility to stick to that master plan, right? The goals and priorities that have been gleaned from speaking with residents and stakeholders and department heads and things like that. That master plan is very dated. Okay, so during my 2-year term, one of my goals would be to update our master plan. You know, let's have those community meetings again and understand where residents see our township going. Okay, we also have not met our budget this year for new construction builds, and we rely on new builds out here not only to generate revenue through building permits and things like that, but to increase our tax base. And we need that out here. You know, only about a quarter of our revenue here in Brandon Township comes from property taxes. More than half of it is coming from the state in sales tax return that comes back to us, and that's based on our population. So the only way we're going to increase revenues here in Brandon Township for the community to be able to spend money on what they prioritize and deem to be important is by increasing our tax base.
How would you, as a council, as a trustee, how would you implement a bigger, let me ask a question, I'm going to cut this, let me ask a question.
Okay.
How would you, as a trustee, implement a plan to increase new housing construction?
Okay, so I think as a township, we need to be able to market ourselves and be seen as an appealing place to live. And some of that has to be really deliberate. You know, someone who's deciding where they're going to build their house or where they're going to move, they're looking at several different factors. They need to, you know, look at Brandon Township online, you know, through social media, through talking to people, and say, wow, you know, this is an awesome community. This is where I want to raise my family. This is where I want to move to or build my house or buy a house. And we have such an awesome community here. We have a very generous community here. But what's missing from that is just the initiative from our local government to pay attention to what's going on in neighboring communities, have a regional perspective, and say, where does Brandon fit into all this, and how can we learn from what other communities are doing, and who can we partner with?
Okay. And just on the master plan, is there something specific that you're not happy with on the master plan?
When I look at our master plan that we're going off of right now, I see things listed that haven't happened and things that don't seem to be a priority for the current board. So when I look through our master plan and I see something like it's considered important that we encourage carpooling by building a carpooling lot somewhere in Brandon Township where people can meet up and leave their vehicles. You know, the master plan is 10 years old. I don't know of a carpool lot here. Is that still a priority? Is that something people would want or use or not? If not, let's take it off. You know, let's not spend time on it. I see protecting our natural resources on there, encouraging outdoor activity like walking and biking. Is that a priority for our current board or not? To me, it seems like it's not a priority for our current board to encourage outdoor, safe transportation, non-motorized for residents. You know, so let's get it updated and let's stick to it. You know.
Okay. Is there anything we've missed or anything you want to add?
Well, one thing I'm really proud of with my campaign is that 100% of my costs for campaign materials have been covered by donations from people who really believe in me and know that I can do this job. I've sent out over 500 handwritten postcards to voters here in Brandon Township, and I've knocked on over 500 doors in different precincts. Now, my precinct, Precinct 3, in the northeast corner of Brandon Township, is not currently represented on the board. You know, I'd like to have that region of Brandon Township represented on the board. I'd like to serve my neighbors and make decisions that benefit the township. So, I'd just like to thank everyone who voted for me in the primary. I was really happy with the turnout, and I'm just excited to see the results this November. I look forward to working here.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.